what's happening? I like this diamond. I like the onyx. I like jewelry in general, what can I tell you? And 14 karat gold as well. All right, nice. So Grandpa's ring from the 1950s, a little earlier, not much earlier, for this large scale onyx. Black onyx is nice. The diamond's quite nice. I think the diamond's at least a half a carat total weight. The 14 karat gold, I would say value on the ring. The onyx ring with the setting is probably about $750. I got to add now the diamond. I'm probably going to put $1,000 on the diamond. $1,750. How did we acquire this? Hi, what's your first name, hon?
Sharon.
Hi, Sharon. How are you? This is, it says 935 silver. It says Jerusalem. This is one of design pieces that we have seen a couple of different places. First of all, on vestments, oftentimes for the clergy, we'll have this particular cross. Tell me about yours. And also, the amethyst or the purple is always a color that is worn by the clergy. So you typically will see amethyst being utilized in these kinds of pieces. First of all, what you have here is a piece of repoussé silver. What's repoussé? All these little dots in this decoration, this three-dimensional or relief carving or relief sculptural quality on this particular piece is what we see. Then also you have a faceted cut center amethyst. Now that amethyst, I have to say, looks quite blue-purple. I would have it tested by a GIA certified gemologist to make sure that it is not an alexandrite. It could be an alexandrite. The fact that it was made in Jerusalem, it's more common for these to come out of Russia, the Middle East, and that part of the world. This particular piece also says 935, 925 is sterling silver. It's the sterling standard, so 92.5% sterling. 935 is a little bit better. So it doesn't say sterling, it says silver, and then it says 935. That's typically used in Jerusalem. It's typically used in Turkey. It's used in that part of the world. They oftentimes use just a little bit more. 93.5% pure silver is what that means. When you see 935 or 925, it's a percentage, pretty high percentage of silver. That's what you're looking at here. And then, of course, you have probably about 2.5, maybe 3 carats total weight of that amethyst or that purple stone. It is a gemstone. You can tell by the way it's actually, sparkling. And then on the back, you can see the mark. You can see the mark here on the back. It has a pendant, which is the bail, so you can wear it as a necklace. And it also has the pin. The pin clasp is a later addition. So she might have wanted to wear it as a pin when she got home and went to the jeweler, and they actually soldered on a pin. The pin looks pretty inexpensive, and the pin attribute looks pretty new. So maybe that happened in the 90s or 2000s or whenever years after she had gone to Jerusalem, for example. It's in beautiful condition, doesn't look like you've had to clean it much, so that's usually an indicator. Silver doesn't tarnish a lot if it is sterling or better. So you don't see all that tarnishing of the 800 parts per thousand silver kind of thing. This is a nice piece. I would say value on this piece easily $800. A couple of things I always ask people. People are surprised that I don't vet any of the objects that come in. I don't know what's coming in. You didn't call me this morning and go, hey, yo, Dr. Lori, I'm bringing this horse today. I don't know what's coming in. I never have known for years and years, and people are always surprised. I've been saying, once I found out there were some people who said, she must have an earpiece, and there's somebody in the back with a computer, and they're putting all of this into Google. None of that is happening. You know, this is all coming out of here, and of course, with the help of all of you about the provenance of objects. Hi, John. So what made you say, I got to bring this to Dr. Lori? Attic find, so you found it out of someone's attic? You have no clue what it's worth, but in a relative's attic, right? And you've had it, how come you got it out of the relative's attic? Were you the person who got the job of, hey, I've got to clean out the house or the attic?
Yes.
Okay. Why do you think I took the ears apart? Because they come out, you figured they're going to be in the way? I want you to look at these ears. I want you to look at the ears. They came out right out of here, right? And I touched this eye because I wanted to see whether or not that was glass. So I'm doing other things while I'm kind of talking to you, and you're thinking, oh, what is she really doing? Well, and then, you know, a little knock. Okay. But I want you to look at these ears, and I'll show camera first. Okay. Kind of the same shape, kind of the same type, kind of the same wood, but not the same age. Okay. So if you look here, I'll show you two of them. I'll show you here. This color's lighter, this color's darker. This color here is darker, this color here is lighter. You seeing this, John? Yeah. Okay. This one's younger. Kind of like the H spot on my face, right? The H spot's the same H spot my mother had. Darker, older. Lighter, younger. This is a new replacement. This is the original to the actual horse. Got it? Okay. That's going to help all of you whenever you're looking at a piece of wood. I don't care what piece of wood it is. Anytime you are looking at oak, you're looking at Walmart, you're looking at maple, you're looking at, not Walmart, walnut. You're looking at maple, whatever you're looking at, that's what I want you to see. So those go in there. So somebody had to fix this, is what happened. Somebody actually had to fix it because one of them was still there and the other one, I don't know, broke away, got lost, who knows. They aren't glued in. Usually they're glued in or they're pegged. You see this little nail right here? That little nail was the peg for the originals. Oh, no. Okay. The other one on the other side as well. Notice, too, that you have a carved mane, but a actual mixed media material. This is horse hair, okay? And this is horse hair, sort of like the stuff that we would put inside a Victorian upholstered chair. Same thing. That's what you're looking at here. And then, but this is carved. So typically you don't see that. Usually the tail is carved if the mane is carved, or the mane is made of a mixed media material, hair, or maybe sometimes it's straw. It could be all different things. And then this piece also got painted. This piece got painted in the 1980s. It was in the attic for a long time, but in the 1980s, somebody decided to come around and get some stain in there and maybe get the Minwax out and do a little job on the saddle, okay? This portion here was always this color, right? However, it was scrubbed, probably with a soap, some kind of detergent. It was scrubbed. The person whose attic it was it mom, was it grandma, who was it? Mom. Was she the type of person who would go, I'm going to scrub that thing? She's going to repaint it. Okay, so she started off by scrubbing these areas, and then she decided she was going to repaint it. She did repaint it. So she didn't repaint it. In this particular case, somebody did some staining here in the 80s. Did she get it after the 80s or before? Oh, you have no idea. You were just the guy who was like, come in here and get this thing out of here. You're the work guy. The other thing that this has, most people say, well, that's a carousel horse. It's for a carousel. Well, you don't have the pole for the carousel. Usually a pole comes right through the body, and that's missing. In fact, in the front of that, oftentimes that would be for moving the horse out and using it somewhere else, too. Okay? So people are surprised by that. So when you have that operation at the front, which was introduced on many carousel horses, because a lot of people in their homes wanted carousel horses in the 80s. There were two popular things in the 80s in, I'll call it interior designs in air quotes. One of them was spinning wheels. I don't know if you remember this. Everybody in the 80s had a spinning wheel. And then in the 90s, the whole market for spinning wheels went. And then they also had carousel horses. For the people who didn't want to have a big pole in their living room with their carousel horse, they used that instead. That was oftentimes used for smaller merry-go-rounds. This relates to the golden age of carousels. Golden age of carousels, 1880 to about 1930. This is a good reproduction from about the 1960s, and then it was repainted in the 1980s. What happened between 1980 and it getting into the attic where you got it is a whole nother operation. There are some very, very valuable ones. What are the most valuable carousel horses or carousel animals? The exotics, okay? So that would be a giraffe, or that would be, if it was a sea creature, or a carousel that had a theme like wild animals, so you'd be on an elephant or you'd be riding on not a horse. Horses are pretty traditional. The ones that are most valuable are those that are made by some of the great artisans of carousel horsemaking, like, you know, Charles Loof, or the Parker, or the Philadelphia Toboggan Company, or such. And now you're all thinking, wait a minute, she just appraised somebody's ring in the last show. What is she talking about carousel horses? This is what happens with the Ph.D. in art history and appraisers. Appraisers have to know a lot of stuff about a lot of stuff. And you also have to know the market as you go through. The market has to also be on your mind. What are people paying for these particular things? I just appraised the first generation iPhone from 2007. And it just went up for auction. It sold for $63,000. It was an original package. It had not been used. And, you know, it was the iPhone that at Macworld, Steve Jobs held up and said, this is going to change the way that we actually think about, you know, communication, how we work, how we live. And it has. That particular phone in 2019 was $5,000 is all it was worth. It sold recently for almost $63,000. That's a big change. But what people don't always realize is that a lot of these particular piece is in knowing the market. A lot of people are trying to identify the market by following people who do not know the market. People are just listing things for all different numbers, don't really know what they're really worth, don't really know what to do. This particular piece is your run-of-the-mill carousel horse. Now you're probably thinking, gosh, Dr. Lori, it's not run-of-the-mill to me, it's a carousel horse. Not everybody has a carousel horse. When someone submits an online appraisal to my website at drloriv.com, I will tell you that in 1 week, in 7 days, I will see at least one carousel horse. 52 weeks out of the year, I see at least one every week. That's a submission that anybody can do. You wouldn't think there were that many of them out there, but there are. And the giraffes and the elephants and the tigers, they go for between $5,000 and $15,000 each. Horses, the good horses by some of the great names, those can go in the $10,000 range. Yours is a run-of-the-mill carousel horse, I'm sorry to tell you. I'm sure you're not too wow upset. Value on it, about $1,000 for Expo 74. Okay, can I take it out of this? We talk about the paper, and you can see from the back, I always tell you there's more to learn from the back than there is from the front. From the back, you can see that it's been rolled for a time. It's in pretty good condition. And you can see that this is the aluminum fountain proposal for Expo 74. And the artist's name is right here, too. And you can see that here's what the fountain would look like. Right? How did you acquire it? From your parents' estate? Yeah. Did you know this is cardboard? Yeah. Something you just picked up? This is cardboard. It's highly acidic. It will off-gas onto your work of art and continue to deteriorate it. So I don't want you to keep it with cardboard. Foam core, acid-free foam core, or acid-free mat board. And you're going, why is she stopping the show to talk about cardboard? Because cardboard could damage all of your artwork. And it can do it fast and you won't even realize it. So you want to get rid of this and put acid-free foam core in between if you're going to keep it in this plastic. So part of your family estate, and all of this is, so it's George Tsutakawa's piece. So it looks like you have an appraisal here. You have one on the phone. From the phone from someone who, we don't know what the expertise of this person is, do we? No. Okay, then why are you getting appraisals from people you don't know their expertise? So your appraisal, you don't feel comfortable with the appraisal because it was just on the phone, okay? You shouldn't feel comfortable with the appraisal because you don't know the credentials of the appraiser. Come up with a value. Yeah. That's really what you need. That's what an appraisal is. An appraisal is two things. It's a correct identification, background history, and it's a value based on the actual market today. So, first of all, we know that this particular, what do we know about the tower? Okay, so the tower is erected in Spokane. It's done for Expo 74. It continues to be functional today. Let's talk a little bit about these types of things because, interestingly enough, I've written a book on artists who create such pieces. American sculptors, in this particular case, you've got these pieces for large public sculptures, and this one in, of course, aluminum. Aluminum being very important and very well used and very popular for, of course, these kinds of fountains. Anytime we add a water feature, as they would say on HGTV, a water feature to these kinds of things, you'll see, in fact, a lot of interest in it. Here's what we have. We have these elements that relate to natural forms. So it could suggest a skeleton. It could suggest the pod of a plant. It could suggest a tree trunk. It could suggest a lot of different things. And the artists usually give you a whole element, a whole written essay about what they were inspired by in pieces like this. The fact that you've got this piece, notice, of course, what acidity will do. Do you notice how it's much darker toward the center and much lighter around the edges? That's acid burning from a mat board that probably was around this when it was framed at one point. There was a cardboard piece in there for years and years. Yeah, that's what that is. That's what the two tones are. That's pretty typical. It's called tanning, but it's really acid burning. It's damage. So you want to look for it if you're looking for pieces on works on paper. So you don't have a small maquette for these. Sometimes with these big projects like this, they will actually have a small maquette, very small work of art that looks like the actual fountain. And you could buy one for maybe $1,000. You could have traded the horse for like $1,000, and you were actually contributing to the making of this particular piece, right? So you only have this object. Is this all you have, or do you have a maquette, or do you have other drawings, or is it just this drawing? Okay, so this is just a postcard. So he's promoting this particular type of thing. The artist drew the card and signed the card. So he made the paper. He drew the piece. He signed the piece. Does it relate to this? Does it have anything to do with the fountain?
I guess it doesn't.
No, it just is his work.
Except that he sent all of it to my dad.
He sent this and the card and this all to your dad.
Yes.
Okay, so you kept it all together.
Yes.
That's great. This is nice, but doesn't relate to this. Probably 150 bucks for this. Okay, not a bad thing. There's an appraisal. This is a major object, okay? In terms of the history of art, this is a major object because this talks about, in fact, what we're thinking about, and that's what we want. We want what the artist's thoughts are, right? It's Conti crayon. Conti crayon on paper, very typical. This would have probably been one of the things that he would have drawn out for the proposal when he's meeting the committee. You know the committee, the guys with the deep pockets. Those are the guys who are going to pay the bill. So we have to have something that looks kind of like what he envisions. He envisions a plaza of some sort. That was big in the 1960s and 70s. He envisions, of course, the water feature. He envisions little kids frolicking near the fountain in Spokane at that particular time around his fountain. Aluminum and all the great aspects of aluminum and such, right? So this particular piece also is poster size on purpose. So many of them could go, these could have been also sold to raise money to generate funds for the actual piece, right? So there's all of this has to do with the marketing of this object and getting this object built. Expo 74 or not, it has to be built, and that's going to take a lot of money. Having said that, this particular piece is a nice example. It's in what I would consider fair condition, okay? Fair condition is, in this particular case, can probably be stopped from any more damage happening if you actually put it into an acid-free mat board and a frame. If you don't want to frame it, that's fine. You could put it back in there, but it's got to be with an acid-free mat board or acid-free foam core. It might cost 10 bucks. Value on your piece today, about $3,800. That's what this is going to be worth today. Where do you sell it? If you want to sell it online, artsy.net, ebay.net, ebay.com, or artnet.com. Where else could you sell it? Those types of places are pretty good places for these pieces. The 1960s, 1970s, and even 1980s objects of art are very popular right now. Will that popularity wane? Yes. As we get into the later 2020s, as we get into the later 2030s, that popularity is going to wane. We collect in 50 and 100 year cycles. So this is really happening about 50, 100 years.